Hello, hello. It says I'm live, and I believe it. I definitely feel alive more than I don't feel alive. What a horrible freaking day in true crime, in my opinion. Let me just start by saying, where's my thumb? Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an infotainment platform. Please hit your like button if you don't mind, and turn on your notification bell to ring. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel, and make sure you're still subscribed if you are a subscriber. And if you're not, please consider subbing up. Doesn't cost you anything. There's no commitment. It just takes a second to hit that subscribe button and you're done. And you can unsubscribe at any point in time if you so please. So, how's my invisible audience today? It's always fun to see who comes in. I haven't seen Anna Bees in a couple of days. Anna Bees, are you coming? Are you here? Are you on vacation? Yesterday we just had Fred Field. There might have been one or two others, but it was mostly Fred Field in the comments. And I appreciate all my viewers. I appreciate the replay crew. I super appreciate the live viewers because that's where it gets very spontaneous when you guys are commenting. And I have no idea what you're going to comment. So it keeps it fun. It keeps it real. It keeps it authentic and spontaneous. And I just want to get right into it. Horrifying this morning. P. Diddy, not guilty on almost all charges. And Brian Koberger pleads guilty on all charges. And what's the distraction all about? I mean, it's not like there's a big blasphemous bill being shoved through Congress or anything with a artificial deadline to destroy our planet or our country or the majority of the population in our country. Yeah, that MF. I almost said it. I almost said the MF, like spelling it out. That big blasphemous bill. Absolutely horrific. And then the fact that the angry orange zombie El Presidente calls it beautiful. It's like, yeah, I guess if you think that watching people get eaten by alligators is beautiful, which obviously he does. Did you guys catch that yesterday? That was insane. That was so crazy. I mean, how are we not supposed to be conspiracy theorists thinking that they're cannibals when they're all talking about people getting eaten by alligators and laughing about it like it's cute and funny? It's like a warm, fuzzy kind of cute thing. I don't care how horrible the people are, even if they're convicted of the worst crimes. You know, just put them out of their misery with something like firing squad, electrocution, lethal injection. But alligator? It's weird, too. Everything with this freaking administration is weird. First of all, I want to underscore the facts that there are statisticians that are showing their work. Anna Bees, hey girl, I was just wondering about you. How are you? Pin message. And as you can see, I'm back to having to use my touch screen. My little cursor, it just like comes and goes. Mostly it works, but sometimes it does this. And this morning was one of these days. There's too much going on with the administration. Well, I don't think that it's any mistake or coincidence that that's going on at the same time all this other stuff is. But let me finish my thought real quick. It's lovely to see you. The thought about the that Trumpster fire, you know, how he loves to obsess on if he had to get eaten by a shark or electrocuted in the water, he would choose electrocution. Like, he's such a freaking child. Like, why does he fixate on that as if he's ever going to be in a predicament where those are his two options? I mean, I think everything is symbolic and everything is metaphorical, but it's just interesting when you couple that fixation that he has on not wanting to get eaten by a shark. I'd rather be electrocuted to death than he's saying, how, oh, well, that's too bad if people get eaten by alligators. I mean, what did he say? It's a dirty business, or it's not a nice business to be in, or something like that. It's like, you mean being the mob boss? Yeah, we know that's not a nice business, Mr. Soprano. President Soprano. It doesn't like to work when you are live. It has been working way more often than not working. But yeah, sometimes if I, um, you know, just reboot the computer, it'll come back on. But I tried that and it didn't work. So I could try it again later. But for the meantime, I just wanted to come on live because it's been really hard to carve out the time to come on live. And I'm so proud of myself that I've been able to at all. We've had a full house with the grandbaby, who I'm not allowed to show to my viewers yet. He's 3 months old, and the parents just aren't into that. Understandable. Totally not pushing it. I just thought I'd ask. I kind of felt bad even asking. No big deal. Anyway, all four of my children, my oldest is 23. She lives like an hour away, so she keeps coming and staying for as many nights in a row as she can before she has to go back to work in person. She has some hours at her job that she can work remotely. And then my almost 18-year-old who just moved out, he just lives like 15 or 20 minutes away, and he likes to come by with his girlfriend as much as possible to see his brother and sister-in-law and the baby. And so then we've got the what might become my bigger studio. We've got that set up as a guest room, which, we're in a 5-bedroom house, but with 6 people. Is it? Yeah, it's 5. With 6 people, and we used to have 6 pets. Now we have 5 pets, but we have a visiting pet, so we're at 6 again. And we're at 6 with just the 3 of us that live here, my youngest and me and my husband, and then my oldest son and his wife and child staying in the guest room. We're at 6, and then we have the other son and daughter coming to visit, and the other girlfriend. So then we're at 9, and it's a lot. It's a lot of chaos. The house is not that big, despite having 5 bedrooms. So just for me to try to do my videos, to try to do my yoga, to try to keep my sanity, to try to keep things clean, but not obsess on it. I bet your grandbaby is so adorable. He is. How did you guess, Annabise? He is amazingly, fantastically tiny. He just turned 3 months old. Absolutely the sweetest thing in the world. And he likes his grandma too. So yeah, let's talk about these cases. Let's talk about the stupid, gross Diddy case, the absolutely insane Idaho 4 case. Then we got the Suzanne Morphew case. And again, like I said, usually when there's so much ruckus going on in the news, I think, well, what's going on behind the scenes? Like, what are the powers that be trying to distract the public from? Yeah, it's not a question in this situation, is it? The angry orange zombie El Presidente is hellbent on having that big blasphemous bill on his desk on the 4th of July, or else what? He's going to fire everybody? Please do. They all deserve to be fired. I mean, not all, but certainly Murkowski and Collins and MAGA Mike, Mitch McConnell. Hakeem Jeffries is being a massive disappointment. I mean, a lot of them are. But top of the list, Murkowski and Collins and McConnell, just get the F off. Step off. You're doing not only a disservice to your constituents, you're doing a disservice to humanity, to your species of Homo sapien. Like, you're an embarrassment. You're just a freaking butt wipe. I love them at that age. Iran and Little E-List. Thank you, Anna Bees. You're paying attention. You're keeping your focus. Absolutely. What was it, a month ago that the big E tweeted, or his excrement, about the little E files never being released because somebody is in them? Think. Can't remember. So distracted. So all of a sudden, after 5 years, Mr. Barry Morphew is apprehended for the second time. All of a sudden, after well over 2.5 years, Brian Koberger is confessing? Plea agreement? We're going to talk about all these. And then all of a sudden, after decades and years and months of this crap with Diddy, he's getting on his knees, kissing the earth, and doing this to the camera. What was it, like this? As if what does he go by? Love. Like, isn't that one of his freaking names? Like, does he not understand the difference between love and hate? War and peace? I mean, obviously Trumpster Fire doesn't understand the difference between war and peace, right? They're so terrible. Yeah, they think we are going to forget. They're trying so hard to get us to forget about the Virginia Giuffre thing. Not happening. Nobody's forgetting about it. It couldn't be more obvious what's going on with the distractions. Just mass distractions, one after another. Like, literally, we can't keep up. Literally. Don't understand why BK would accept a plea deal. I don't understand why they would offer him a plea deal, Anna Bees. You know, I have had some personal experience with things like this. A family friend that, not the one I was mentioning yesterday, not Mia Zapata. That guy was never offered a plea deal, I don't think. Anyway, Mia Zapata's unaliver, Jesus Mezquia, if that's how you say his hideous name. He's deceased now. He passed away in prison from COVID, allegedly. Horrible situation. But no, this is a different family friend whose child was red-rummed. I don't want to say much about it, but what I do want to say is that the family was told that there was no way in hell there would be any type of plea offered ever for the person that was arrested and the suspect. So, in my opinion, that suspect, who did get a really sweet plea agreement, like ridiculous plea agreement, the family was notified beforehand and they were told that they had no option. They weren't asked if they approved it. They were told that this is the deal. After many months and multiple times of the prosecuting attorney spelling out that there'd be no way for any plea agreement, offer, or negotiation ever, with the details of what had happened in that case. And then a hideous plea agreement, hideous plea deal offered. Absolutely devastating. So in this case with Idaho 4, it sounds like they sent letters in the mail. Like, what? Snail mail? Ink on paper? Are you effing kidding me? Not in person, not even a Zoom call, just snail mail, a letter. I don't understand why BK would accept a plea deal. Well, so the cases that I've seen up close in real life have been, in my opinion, that there were more people responsible, that it was a much bigger problem than one crazy person, one, lunatic offing people. Is a much bigger problem. You know, co-conspirators and systematic organized crime. Let's just call it what it is. It's organized crime. You call it the trucking mafia in Kylie Rodney's case. You can call it a lot of things. But then one person is told, you're taking the fall for this, or we're going to take you and your entire family out. So what's your choice? You pick, you decide. You've got the freedom to decide for yourself what you want. You want to go to jail for a plea agreement where it's not even for life, and we'll give you lots of money, give your family lots of money, or would you like us to rub you all out? I mean, that's what I've seen in real life, and then it brings to mind like the Watts case. And Chris Watts took that plea agreement to protect his mistress, in my opinion, and to stop the investigation. He asked point blank, if I take this plea agreement, or if I confess, will this stop the investigation? And they said yes, and then he confessed, right? Hey, Fred Field, I meant to ask you how your recovery is. You said that you're back at work, so are you out of the woods, I hope? Thanks so much for being here. Is that little puppy dog? Hold on. Come here, baby. Mookie, mookie, mookie. Okay, I got half of the puppies that are in the house are in my teeny tiny studio, but that's okay. It's just the three of us. There's plenty of room. They're so cute. Come here, Mookie. Do you want to come up? Come here, baby. So maybe the other BK did it, and Koberger was the getaway car. Annabes, who knows? Who knows? They could have planned to rob them for rugs. Such a great point. Annabes, you are so smart, in my opinion. You are much smarter than I am. So I invite you once again to be my co-host. I'm just kidding. You kind of are. Both of you are kind of my co-hosts. So I appreciate that. And if you ever want to like phone in or do the screen, I can figure out how to do that. I just haven't wanted to really, I'm not a tech person, and I just try to go with what I know. Lights and colors, right? And puppy dogs and babies and yoga. So yeah, this whole thing, let me read your comment again. But seriously, I mean it, you guys. You are always here for me. I am here for you. Let's see. How do I pin that? Maybe the other BK. So Brent Kopaka did it, and Koberger, I think you added an extra L in there unnecessarily, like Coles. It's hard to spell all these things. And then we have to remember Brian with a Y, right? I mean, how are we supposed to remember? It's hard enough keeping Kaylee and Kylie straight. Was the getaway car they could have planned to rob them for rugs? Such a great point. Fred Field says, and he's number one, is that sticker, Fred? I'm just curious because I'm dense. Is that like a membership sticker? I'm embarrassed if it is, and I just don't even know that. But, my membership stuff is pretty new, so I'll figure out what to do for members, too, to make it more special. Other than that, you have an extra, there are some members-only videos, and then you have an extra emoji, the one that's Justice, the Statue of Liberty. It's cool. No, is it the Statue of Liberty? I think it's Lady Justice, actually. I think it's Lady Justice. I am on regular duty, but careful with weights I lift. Seems still fatigue faster than normal. Well, dude, you are in tremendous shape. Yeah, I've been taking naps like every day for the last handful of days in the afternoon. Unplanned. I just fall asleep on the couch. I don't know if it's being a grandma or what. Maybe just overstimulation, having so much activity. I like my quiet life. I really do. I like my YouTubing. I like my quiet life. But it is great having all this lovely family around. I just have to pace myself. And Fred says, "Hi, everyone. It just showed up. Don't even know what it is. That is awesome. It says number one. Maybe you're like the um, most frequent, the most frequent flyer, maybe. I don't know. I would think Anna Bees would have that too. Sorry for my spelling. I just spell and hope it's right. I know sometimes I do that too. Just hope for the best. And then if it's not, I plug it in another comment with the little asterisks on either side. That works. Corrections. So I do have some corrections from yesterday. Am I jumping around enough? I mean, I have just been really flustered with all of this crap. And that was before the plea agreement went through, or we found out that he is pleading guilty. I mean, I don't know if it's really gone through yet. I don't know what all that entails when it gets the seal of approval. I would think until he's sentenced. I would think once he's sentenced, and I don't know if they've named the date that he'll be sentenced. I'm pretty sure that until he's sentenced, it's not a done deal, I think. Anyway, I think it's horrifying that the law enforcement or the government or the prosecuting attorney, however you want to refer to them, that they can do that to families, that they can lie straight to their faces as if the families haven't been through enough already, losing their loved ones, usually getting a bunch of BS on the interwebs, you know, and then being told that there'll be no plea agreement without your approval, and then being told, well, we're doing a plea agreement. Like, why would they even go there? My only thought is that they really didn't have a case, and that I never thought that they were going to present a case in court. I did not think that it would go this way. I'll reiterate what I said yesterday. I always thought Kohberger was going to get Epsteined. I always thought that. So I never believed for a second they would take it to trial, ever. And so I like to be wrong about some things. Like, wouldn't we all like to know what happened? Wouldn't we all like to see the actual evidence, not the like suspected evidence or the inferred evidence? Or, I mean, where to even begin? There's so much. There's a lot of crazy YouTube channels. Remember Subconscious Mouth, you guys? That was a channel that I spoke about a lot. That channel started on like November 8th of 2022. They literally started that channel 5 days before the Kohberger case. And it was a black man, and he was really smart, and he had like a total like thug voice and, you know, real gangsta way he spoke, but he was smart as a tack. And I don't know if he ever spoke about any case other than the Idaho 4 case. And he knew a lot of things that nobody else knew. Not so much like he was there. Not so much like that True Crime Time that I think was there. Get a Clue and True Crime Time. I want to talk about both of those BS channels. True Crime Time is still on YouTube. Get a Clue is the one that's been scrubbed, completely scrubbed. That guy was weird. That guy was so weird. Anyway, Get a Clue and True Crime Time both had the same wallpaper as Kopaka had for his profile picture on Facebook. And True Crime Time had their profile picture and their wallpaper as that black and white like a skyscape of trees and the moon, full moon. Sure, it could be a coincidence, but I told you guys recently, I don't know if you remember, that I was looking for the icon. I was looking for that image, that graphic image, because I couldn't find the Get a Clue channel. And I also couldn't find the True Crime Time. Even though it's still on YouTube, it's really hard to find it unless you have the direct link, which is in my description from yesterday's video. Just trying to look it up with True Crime Time, 007, and Idaho 4, Koberger. Nothing pulls it up in my experience. Maybe I just have a problem with my search engine, but it doesn't have a problem with other things. Anyway, that image, when I first noticed that it was the same thing as Kopaka and one of those channels, the True Crime Time, I think Get a Clue came into the picture later. But True Crime Time is the one that I believe could be Brett Payne. Could be. And they're the one. I don't want to keep going in so many different directions. Let me stay focused. That image of the evergreen tree silhouette with the full moon, I Googled it to see if it was a common image. Like, why would these different things have the same image? And it was a relatively common image. I was able to find it fairly easy Googling like trees and moon or something like that, black and white trees and moon silhouette. And it didn't show up like right away, but it was probably only like one page down. And so I was like, okay, so it's a public art image or something. But now when I look for it, it doesn't come up at all. It does not come up at all. So I was trying to find it recently because of all this crap, and I couldn't pull it up. And I couldn't pull up True Crime Time either. And I couldn't pull up Get a Clue either. And I'm not on Facebook anymore. So I have no idea if Kopaka's profile is still up on Facebook, and that was his profile picture. So, when I can't find something, you know me, I don't stop. I dig and I dig and I dig, and I think of other ways to dig, or I'm looking for other things, and then I find that one thing that I was looking for before that I couldn't find. So anyway, I found Get a Clue and I found True Crime Time over the last few days. There's things about those two channels that are similar too. So Get a Clue is the one with the wolf face as their profile picture, and then the treescape as their wallpaper. True Crime Time has both wallpaper and profile picture of that tree silhouette. The really annoying thing about trying to look up True Crime Time is finding True Crime Time ASMR. I can't stand that stuff affiliated with that other channel. It's just weird. We won't even go there. But it always comes up trying to find True Crime Time. So I've been suspicious of different handles, like Josco 1972. I found that video. Remember Josco 1972, you guys? Fred, I know you didn't really follow the Idaho 4, so I'm sorry if it's not interesting to you. I don't know if there's any connection between Kylie Rodney's case and the Idaho 4, but it sure did seem like the Idaho 4 was a distraction tactic, maybe, to get people to quit talking about Kylie Rodney's case. And I hate to say it, but I think it worked, kind of. And there were way too many weird coincidences, some of the same names, some of the same ex-boyfriend. Kaylee had an ex-boyfriend, Kylie had an ex-boyfriend, the blonde girlfriends that may or may not have been jealous, that may or may not have been a part of it. I don't know, really pretty young blonde uh, teenagers. I mean, Idaho 4, they were 20 and 21. And then obviously Xana was a brunette, super pretty also. And I'd say Ethan was a pretty boy too, brunette. Extremely good looking, hot, young people. Just wiped out. Both were at parties. Both had parties involved. Like Kylie, we know the sanctuary party. Like the fact that that place was called the sanctuary is creepy AF when it comes to like ritualistic Titanic type of things. And then you had this sorority party that Dylan Mortensen had invited Kaylee to as her plus one. And then you had the Sigma Chi party that Ethan may have gotten in a fight with David Loach at the party that Bethany was at, that Ethan and Xana had 5 hours from like 9 at night till about 2 in the morning that was missing from their timeline until that joke of a PCA was put forth at the end of December, beginning of January on a case that had a gag order. They were all good looking people. Oh, you don't remember Josco? So check out Josco. I think it's with a C. Josco. Josco 1974. I'll tell you about that because it is one of the more fascinating pieces of the Idaho 4 case. There, and it's a TikTok channel. So there was a guy who took his cell phone. What did I do with my cell phone? It's plugged in. He took his cell phone and he took his computer screen and he kept the cell phone in front of his computer screen, and both are just all black. So you can see a little bit of reflections, but he's talking about the Idaho 4 case. And he's talking as if, I think he's talking as if he's the one who did it. Like he's talking like this. So he's really like taunting people. Like, you can see me, but you can't see me. And at one point, I made the claim that the man doing that video, who called himself Josco 1972, was the same voice as True Crime Time, who in my opinion, may or may not be Brett Payne. But True Crime Time, they talk much different. They talk really fast. And Josco 1972, they talk really slow and methodical, as if they're trying to change their voice so that it's not recognizable. So if you sped up the Josco 1972 just 1.25, so not a lot, or if you slowed down the True Crime Time to 0.75, it was the exact same voice. In my opinion, it was the same person. And I fully, honestly, in my heart of hearts, I believe it's the corporal lead detective. I believe that. But what I was bringing up yesterday, that is one of the most significant, stickiest points for me in the Idaho 4 case, is that blasted knife sheath that the lead detective and Sergeant Blaker had different versions of where it was and how they did or didn't see it on the bed, under the comforter, on top of the comforter, blah blah blah. Could see it from the doorway according to Payne, couldn't see it until lifting up the blankets according to Blaker. Moscow PD did not take that knife sheath into evidence. An Idaho State trooper, an Idaho State Police trooper, took that knife sheath into evidence, which is odd. It should have been the lead detective should have taken it into evidence. He's the lead detective, Mr. freaking Payne, in my Mabbit. Payne in my Mabbit. You know, the name of the whack job coroner. Anyway, that Idaho State Patrol trooper's name is Gary Tollenson, Tollenson. And he was on the Brady Giglio list at the time for eliciting allegedly a false confession, violating civil rights in the Dr. Drake, Dr. Moore homicide in Bonners Ferry, Idaho. So Dr. Drake and Dr. Moore were chiropractors. Dr. Drake was shot, and Dr. Moore claims that Detective Tollenson elicited a false confession from him illegally and then convicted him of the crime, but then it was overturned. And I think that homicide happened in like 2020 or maybe 2021. But anyway, the case is still kind of ongoing and active, I think. Like they haven't come up with any other suspects, but Dr. Drake's family has sued Dr. Moore for punitive damages. It's a weird case. And it's in Bonners Ferry. So Bonners Ferry is a few hours away from Moscow, just so happens to be where the Meats and Locker Company is that Brett Payne has owned with his criminal daddy, who's also Brett Payne. Their initials are like BF and BM. I don't know which one is worse. Anyway, his father has a rap sheet from Alaska. The company, the Meats and Locker Company, Brett Payne has owned it since he was like 17 or 18, and he's probably around 35 now. So, like, since he was like a senior in high school, he owned this Meats and Locker Company. Okay, he's an avid hunter. I get it. But it's odd that it just so happens to be in Bonners Ferry, which is a tiny town. Let's look and see how many people are in Bonners Ferry real quick. I haven't Googled anything yet, and I'm over half an hour in? That's crazy. Bonners Ferry population, Idaho. OMG, it's way smaller than I thought. 2,697 people. I guarantee you that those 2,697 people all know each other. Every single one of them. Holy crap. I was thinking it was like 3 times that size. Wow. Okay. Oh, and is it really close to the Canadian border? It is 27 to 30 miles from the Canadian border. OMG. That's convenient, huh? Because who knows what they're putting in that locker. So the Meats and Locker Company has changed names like half a dozen times in the dozen or so years that the Payne boys have owned it. And then they just happen to have a second Meats and Locker business in Castle Rock, Washington. And of course, I know Castle Rock, Washington, because I lived in Olympia and I had a friend who bought some land in Castle Rock. Castle Rock probably has a population of 500. Let's see. Castle Rock, Washington. Castle Rock, Washington population. Oh, no, it's the same size. It says 2,400. It's about the same size as Bonners Ferry. I don't believe it. I think they're talking about many surrounding areas. Castle Rock, I would have thought like double digits. There's like nobody in Castle Rock, but there is Brett Payne's second business in Castle Rock. The reason that that's relevant is because it's really close to where that boy Caden Young passed away. Remember Caden Young, the football player? There's 2 Caden Youngs that played football for the University of Idaho. And one of them had also been president of his fraternity. And he'd also been the editor of the Argonaut, the school newspaper. And he was the one who passed away from an overdose that the rugs came from Emma Bailey and Demetrius Robertson. I mean, this stuff just makes your freaking head spin. So Demetrius Robertson and Emma Bailey were both arrested around the same time Koberger was arrested, and they were put in jail like right next to Koberger. And then the day of Koberger's first hearing, I think they were sprung. So they were arrested for supplying the rugs that unalived Caden Young when he was on spring break in Western Washington. So Chehalis or Centralia. Let's see, I always forget which one is closer to Castle Rock. Let's see. Centralia or Chehalis. Centralia, Washington. Let's see. And Centralia, Washington is... Oh, they're way closer to each other than I thought. No wonder it's so confusing. Castle Rock is so small, it's not even on the map. It's right by Rochester. That's funny that it's not even on the map, but they say it has that many people. So yeah, Olympia is where I lived for many years. You've got Rochester, Ground Mound, Centralia, Chehalis. And where the F is Castle Rock in there? It is nowhere to be found. Is it by Little Rock? I think it is. I think it's by Little Rock. Let me look on here. I didn't look at the map before. Sorry. Castle Rock, Washington. So Castle Rock is further south. Okay. Let me see if it says where Caden Young's place of death in 2023. In Washington State, 2023. And really weird that there was two Caden Youngs. So the Centralia Police Department announced that. So it happened in Centralia. And let's see if the businesses, the Meats and Locker business owned by Brett Payne. Let's see if it comes up. South Hill Meats and Locker Incorporated. It changed its name. This is just 2 days old. It's changed its name so many times. And that is really wild. Let's see. So they changed its name to South Hill Meat Lockers Incorporated. South Hill Meat Locker Incorporated, owned by Brett Payne in Western Washington. Maybe he doesn't own that other one anymore. It only came up in Bonners Ferry. Anyway, I'll do more research on this later. Centralia is where Caden Young was. Did I lose you yet? Annabees and Fred Field. It is a top fan badge. Apparently, I am number one. LOL. That's funny. Top fan. That is awesome. Like I said, I'm surprised Anna doesn't have that. Congratulations, Fred. I hope you're not jealous, Anna Bees. You guys are both top, as far as I'm concerned. That same dang ad just popped up again and wouldn't load all the way, and it won't let me out. I had to leave, close everything, and come back. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. So let me try to stay focused on all of the shenanigans. Let me see. Stanley Mortensen is the DA in Kootenai County. Same last name as Dylan Mortensen, one of the two witnesses that didn't see anything at the crime scene on November 13th, 2022. So a couple of things that are important about Stanley Mortensen. I only found out yesterday that he had been appointed to be the DA in August of 2022. However, he was not sworn in an acting DA until October of 2022, October 1st. So 6 weeks prior to the quadruple homicide. Police Chief James Fry, his wife, Julie Fry, had been the finance director or the treasurer of the city of Moscow for a handful of years prior to winning an election about 5 days prior to the quadruple homicide. She won the position of Latah County Clerk, meaning that she's in charge of all of the legal records of the county, meaning that when you do a public records request, it has to go over her desk. It has to pass through her desk. So she's going to see every document that's been requested, and she's going to see who has requested the document. And not to scare anybody, because I really encourage people to make public records requests. However, just know that when you request something, you have to be specific. And when you request it, they know your number. They know who you are, and they know that you know something about that case. So let's say you're requesting a record from a cold case from 20 years ago. First thing is they're probably going to think you're a reporter covering the cold case. Second thing is they might think that you're like a private investigator or something. But they want to know. They want to track who knows anything about anything, especially if it's a case that they've done a lot of covering up for, right? Like, let's say the Dr. Drake case in Bonners Ferry. If you make a public records request for that, and there's some shady business going on with Toolinson. So the thing with Toolinson being the lead, or not the lead detective, but the detective who took that knife sheath into evidence in the Idaho 4 case, is that he's already had complaints about being unethical. He's already on the Brady Giglio list currently when that happened, which would exclude him from being the right person to take a key piece of evidence into custody. So that's weird that they did that. That's really weird. it was connecting to something else that now I'm losing the connection. Um, but so I had Stanley Mortensen and Julie Fry. So Julie Fry and her husband had a lot of power and control in the city of Moscow, him being the police chief, her being in charge of all the money, and then her being in charge of all of the court records. So since she won that election, I don't even know if she's still in charge of all the money or not. I don't know if she could like double up on her duties. I wouldn't think so, but I've tried to look into it and I haven't been able to ascertain. So, Stanley Mortensen, I don't know if he is at all related to Dylan Mortensen or not. If he is, if he's even like a distant uncle or something like that, that would explain a lot. However, I want to keep in mind and let people know that I've looked into it a lot and I haven't been able to find anything except for the fact that Mortensen is a common last name. I guess it's like a Mormon last name. So there's a lot of Mortensens in that area. But also keep in mind that Dylan Mortensen's parents were divorced. Her mother, like everyone else, is a graduate of the University of Idaho. And she was, I think, a professor and is now part of the administration, something like that. But she's at the Boise campus. So Boise's 5 hours away. We know that that's where Dylan was from. We know that that's where her shady boyfriend, Quinn, was his last name Rowe? Quinn was from Boise and said, "Oh, I've never been to Moscow." It's like, right. You're a teenager and your girlfriend is 5 hours away and you've never been there in a car that looks just like yours, your big black truck, to overcompensate for something, was seen outside of her house on that night. What is his last name? Let's see. Dylan Mortensen's boyfriend, Quinn, Idaho 4. Quinn Kelly. That's all I was looking for. Explore the complexities of Dylan Mortensen's experience with Quinn Kelly in the context of the Idaho Red Rums. Interesting. Craziness. Okay, set that down. Look at your comments. And Anna Bees says, I am kind of lost because I was off for a minute. Oh, I'm so sorry, Anna Bees. We'll get you caught up. And Fred says, maybe mods don't get the patch. Well, maybe that would make sense. Could be, Fred, Anna Bees says. So yeah, let me drink a little bit of my tea or my juice. Which one? I've got, what happened to my black tea? It's right here. I've got my Darjeeling tea and then I've got my veggie juice. And I've got my cool art history mug with lipstick on it. I don't wear much makeup, but I do wear a little bit of lipstick usually, so I don't look so freaking washed out. A little bit of lipstick and a little bit of eyeliner. That's basically it. Not into makeup. Not that there's anything wrong with people that are. I mean, I love some of these content creators that put on their makeup when they're doing their thing. Obviously, Bailey Syrian is a big one. And then Rosie's Insights is another one. And they're both so good at it. I love their makeup and I love watching them do their makeup as they're talking. Yeah. So yeah, there's been a lot of suspicion around Dylan and her connections, and then her boyfriend, his connections. He's kind of thuggy, allegedly, apparently. And Bethany Funk. I think that the guy with the same last name, Cody Funk, who's like the coroner for, is it Kootenai County? Let me see. I think that they're related. Let's look this one up. Cody Funk, coroner, Idaho. This could be a different Cody Funk. Let me try again. Cody Funk, coroner, county coroner in Idaho. Oh my goodness. Wait a second. TikTok, this could be craziness. You just never, you can't trust anything you find on the internet. Sorry, this is why I don't use TikTok. What else? How else can I find it? Which hospital was it that he was at? The same hospital, I think St. Marie is the town. The same hospital that Steve Gonzalez was the IT guy at. Steve Gonzalez, information technology specialist at County Hospital, Idaho. Oh, we just don't even want to go there. It's just too much information. I said I was going to set this down. I think I probably should. But it's driving me crazy now because they lived in near Coeur d'Alene, and I know that that's Kootenai County. Kootenai County Hospital coroner. Is in Coeur d'Alene. Dang it. Sorry, you guys. I'm just choking over here with all these things. So let's get back to this other distraction. Could be connected, could be random. The two firefighters that were unalived in the ambush in Idaho that were shot while responding to the arson wildfire. That was Sunday, and now we're at Wednesday. I mean, how do we keep up with all these effing distractions? A month ago, it was the Democrats in Minnesota that were shot by that crazy man, that MAGA crazy dude who took the life of Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark Hortman. She was the Democrat House of Representatives, so she was a representative. And then mistakenly yesterday, I was saying that the Hoffmans, the senator and his wife that were shot that survived, I said that they were Republicans, and I'm sure anybody who was paying attention was like, no, they're not, you misspoke. Because yeah, obviously it was all Democrats. It was like 70 Democrats on a list that guy had in his car, and 45 of them were in Minnesota. One of them was Governor Walz. So Governor Walz and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden all went to the funerals for Melissa and Mark Hortman over the weekend. And our president did not. And he made some really vulgar statements about why he wasn't even calling Governor Walz to offer support or condolences given the situation. And then go back a couple of months, and there was the incident where um, Governor Shapiro's mansion in Pennsylvania was set on fire, also a Democrat. Shapiro was one of the finalists, incidentally, coincidentally, no. Um, one of the finalists for the VP ticket on Kamala Harris's candidacy, but she went with Walz. So Shapiro is that was insane. There were firebombs thrown into his house, into his mansion. That's not even his, it's owned by the state. And these types of terrorist attacks, I'm calling the burning and the attempted homicides of the Shapiro family in Pennsylvania, I'm calling that a terrorist attack. I'm calling the shootings in Minnesota terrorist attacks. I'm also calling that freaking Cybertruck blowing up in front of the Trump Tower on New Year's morning. I'm going to call that a freaking terrorist attack. And the other truck that rammed into a bunch of people, the white F-150, Ford F-150 in New Orleans, that didn't that man kill like 14 or 15 people that night, a few hours before the Cybertruck blew up in front of the Trump Tower? These things are effing crazy. And to me, they're all terrorist attacks. And to me, they're all completely unusual things that don't really happen in our country. And they're all happening under this new administration. And it's just one thing after another. It's just mass distraction. It couldn't be crazier. It couldn't be crazier. And then, like I said, starting out this video, the sudden settling of the Idaho 4 case and the kind of sudden, unexpected verdicts in the Diddy case. And how do we know that our president didn't pull some strings for the verdict in the Diddy case? It was just weeks ago when he made that statement in the Oval Office, when someone asked him, one of the reporters asked him if he would consider pardoning P. Diddy if he was convicted. And he said, well, I don't know. I'd have to look at the specifics of the case. That was a direct communication, in my opinion, to the jurors that if they convicted him, they were in danger. That's my opinion. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like major mob boss crap. Absolutely. Like, what WTF has our great country morphed into? And are we, what was it that somebody said this on a different channel a couple of days ago? Are we going to become a colony of Russia? Are we going to become a Russian colony? I'm trying to remember what channel they said that, and I was like, that's crazy. Oh, wait, yeah, that's pretty close to what it is looking like, huh? I'm upset about the birthright citizenship being taken away. It's horrible, Anna Bees. I'm upset about all of it. I mean, wouldn't that birthright citizenship apply to Donald Trump? I mean, his mother was not a citizen. She was an immigrant. So kick him out. He's ruining everything anyway. I mean, he's definitely compromised by Vladdy. He's not even in Vladdy's pocket. He's like in his body part. I mean, come on. Funny, not funny. All of these people. Keg's Breath, I think that's a great name for Pete. a great nickname. He is like this with those people. All of his email addresses go back to those people, former USSR. These people are just villains. Peter Thiel, complete villain. And then he recruited the spineless mashed potatoes in a suit, JD Vance, to be the biggest tool of the administration. Wasn't Vance a Democrat? I know he was a never Trumper, just like a year ago. He was a never Trumper. Like I said, mashed potatoes in a suit. And I don't remember if it was Hal Sparks who came up with that or who it was, but whoever it was, I want to give them a shout out. I didn't make that up. That's freaking hilarious. OMG. So yeah, I'm really concerned about the birthright citizenship. I'm very concerned about the abductions of suspected undocumented or non-citizens, or even ones that have been granted citizenship and then get it revoked because they wrote an editorial that somebody didn't like. And, you know, for Lisa Murkowski to come straight out and say that she votes according to the way Trumpster Fire pressures her to, because she fears for her physical safety if she doesn't do it. She came straight out and said that straight up. That's effing crazy. That's crazy talk. Like, full stop. We need to get more specifics. Who's threatening her? And what are they saying? What are they doing? She waking up with a horse head in the bed next to her? Or is her spouse's sibling drowning in a Tesla on their own property? Mitch McConnell? His wife's sister, Angela Chow? His wife, Irene Chow? Eileen. I think it's Eileen. That was just a year ago, February, so a year and a half ago. Angela Chow, 50 years old, drowned in her Tesla in a 6-foot deep man-made pond on the property that was owned technically by the business corporation that her husband owned. So essentially her own property. Her Tesla went into the water, and I guess that those Teslas can be controlled remotely, allegedly. She was just backing up. She was just moving the car, like from the guest house to the main house, or from the main house to the guest house. Her friends were all there. 6 feet deep water. She couldn't get out. The doors and the windows locked. And then just one snafu after another. Angela Chow, 50 years old, just had her first child like 4 or 5 years prior to that. And her sister had been the first congressperson to resign due to the insurrection. I think she gave her resignation on January 7th of 2021. And she was on the board of directors for the Kennedy Center. And her family owned a multi-billion-dollar China shipping company. That's all Mitch McConnell's wife. So Mitch McConnell has just been crazy, like all over the map, with defying Trumpster Fire and then bending over for Trumpster Fire. So most recently bending over, even though he's on his way out, like that other politician from North Carolina that announced he's not going to run again because of all the horrible pressure. Can't remember his name. One sec. Senator who won't run again because of pressure from the Republican Party. North Carolina Senator Tillis won't seek re-election. So this was just 3 days ago. Tom Tillis, Republican senator. I want to say he's been serving his constituents for a couple of decades. It's absolutely nuts. So it's like, it's basically like the schoolyard bully is running our country, right? Brute force. Who cares about intellect when you got none? And I got to talk more about El Presidente sitting like this. Let's see, is it his right hand over his left hand? No, it's his left hand over his right hand. He sits like this at the Resolute desk. Actually, it's more like this, I think. It's always the same. It's covering the back of his right hand. What is he covering? It's so extreme. It's so common that he's sitting there like this, and he's always sitting. Everybody else is standing up around him, and he's just sitting there covering the back of his right hand. It's so common that the picture, whether it's a photograph or a painting, I'm not sure, giant picture of himself right behind him, he's doing the exact same thing with his freaking hands. And his fingers, honestly, don't look like the fingers of a person that's alive. They are all swollen. They're like, the shape is more like arrows. Something is going on with that guy's health. I mean, he's 79 years old. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, our dear friend Fred here is almost the same age, and he's doing great. He takes care of himself, and he's honest about his health, right? I mean, you don't live on McDonald's and Diet Coke, do you, Fred? I mean, that stuff will kill anybody. Come on. Anyway, were there other things I wanted to mention? Yeah, I mentioned this yesterday. The Idaho ambush of the firefighters happening the day before the announcement of the Kohberger plea. And then going back to where you were starting out, Annabise, with his plea agreement, and could it tie in with Brent Kopaka? So you got Brett Payne, you got Brent Kopaka. I think Dylan's father is Brent Mortensen. There's one or two other Brent or Bretts in these cases as well. You got to remember that the Moscow PD and the Pullman PD are very tight. The cities of Moscow and Pullman are very tight. They kind of consider themselves one in the same city. They're like 7 miles apart. They both have roughly like 20 to 30,000 people population, but that's combined with the colleges. So I'm just going off the top of my head here. In Moscow, the university is like 25,000 people, roughly. And the city is like 11,000 people, approximately. So it's about 36,000 in Moscow. And again, this is ballpark. And then in Pullman, am I getting that backwards? And Pullman's smaller of a city. and larger of a university. Pullman is the one with 25,000 students at Western State University and under 10,000 people in the community. And then I want to say Moscow, Idaho is more like half of the population, that it's about 25,000 total. Half of that is the students at the University of Idaho, and then half of that is the city of Moscow. And again, I'll check it later. I don't want to keep picking up my phone and looking stuff up when I'm on live. And Anna B says, sorry, I'm back. I was filling something out online. Thank you, dear, for filling me in. So the thing about Moscow and Pullman is that they share the dispatch, and they share a lot. People that live in that area consider them to be like one side of town and the other side of the same town. Although they're very different towns. I mean, they're in different states. Pullman is extremely conservative, and it's very much not an artsy town, whereas Moscow is probably just as conservative, except that Idaho is such a conservative state. I'm going to guess that Moscow is one of the more liberal cities of Idaho. And it's also very artsy, very like bougie, right? Pullman is not bougie. But my point in bringing that up is just the whole thing with the police department. So you have the Pullman PD, you have the Moscow PD. Moscow PD covers the university. They even have like a resource officer that works out of a specific office at the university. Whereas Washington State University has their own police department. They're both big football towns. We haven't talked about football in a while. This whole massacre happened after a big football event. UC Davis coming into town and beating the University of Idaho that night. Like hammering them. Twice as many points, I think. And I think the game started at about 4 and ended by 8. And nobody goes with a timeline of that night of anything prior to like 9 o'clock. Like, why do the timelines all start at 9 o'clock? I think it's because they're trying to leave their football department out of the picture, in my opinion. So you got this big football game. Probably everybody in the story was at the football game. And then you've got all the football players staying in town overnight. All the football players from the University of Davis, UC Davis, University of California, Davis. And you got your Moscow PD, you got your Pullman PD, you got your Wazoo PD. So we know there's been a lot of grape in Pullman PD and Wazoo with the Wazoo Police Department. They both have had officers that have gotten themselves in deep doo-doo from sexually assaulting the women in Pullman while on duty. It's bad enough that they're grapists, but they're getting paid to grape. Kidding me? So, that makes Moscow PD look like, a bunch of Boy Scouts, right? All they do is fumble big cases and stalk and harass pretty girls, tell them that they have had noise complaints when they haven't had noise complaints. So we had Brian Kohberger interview and become one of the final 4 to be selected for a paid assistantship at the Pullman PD. So I think he interviewed around April 12th of 2022. And it was a Zoom interview. It lasted like 45 minutes. He was still living in Pennsylvania at the time. And then he and Chief Jenkins sent each other emails right away about how much they enjoyed their conversation and hope to work together in the future. And then they have no record of anything after that at the PD. Bullcrap. Simultaneously, the entire administrative staff of the Pullman PD is getting in deep crap for covering up for their grapist officers. One in particular, Matthew Kurt, with a K, K-U-R-T. So Matthew Kurt got all of his supervisors fired, essentially. And then Chief Jenkins swooped in from Pullman PD to clean up the mess at Wazoo, even though he had an officer who went to trial for graping a student, and he even involved Matthew Kurt in their assault of this very, very sad situation with an 18-year-old freshman. So Matthew Kurt, piece of crap, right? Gets everybody fired that is his supervisor at Wazoo. Chief Jenkins, who's got the same types of things going on in his department, is coming in to clean up over at this other department that can't handle, their officers to keep their damn thing in their freaking pants while they're on duty and not hurt people. And then Matthew Kurt's last day of work before he was forced to resign was November 4th, 2022. What is that? 9 days before the quadruple homicide. And then remember, we had this ridiculous little redhead from Arkansas named Gigi coming out with her announcement that she got the letter from Human Resources at Wazoo that was firing Koberger from his teaching fellowship and kicking him out of school. And it had all these dates of things that happened with meetings and such on campus, and then things that happened with like Buddy the dog getting unalived and filleted and other stupid crap. And she's trying to say, look, I got the letter and it correlates, it proves. And then Ashley Banfield put that on News Nation. I mean, just completely discrediting everybody at News Nation as far as I'm concerned, including Brian Enton. And I really liked Brian Enton. He did some really great work in the Gabby Petito case. But News Nation tanked themselves backing that up, in my opinion. And that little Gigi, she went around the streets of YouTube and drummed up some business, getting more bullcrap going more recently. I don't even want to name the channels that she involved because it was just such bullshit. And, it's hard when you're a content creator to always know what is fake and what's not fake. Like when Steve Fisher, when SF Investigates and MK Ultra came out with the video of Kylie Rodney's car going into Lake Prosser, the alleged video of Kylie Rodney's car allegedly going into Lake Prosser. And that video got sent to many, many of the larger content creators one night after MK Ultra came out into the streets of YouTube saying, I can't tell you what you're going to see, but you're going to see this big thing in the next 24 hours that is going to blow your mind and prove to you guys that I'm right. And this is what happened. And then that bullcrap came out and a lot of content creators fell for it. Still to this day, a lot of content creators believe that that's the real McCoy. I think over time, many lost faith and thought, no, this is absolute crap. Hugh Gray's was part of that too. Hugh Gray's Investigates. I love that channel that created their content just to slam him, and it's called like Bad Actors or something like that. It's funny. it's just nuts. The streets of YouTube are freaking nuts, and you got to have a thick skin, and you got to be skeptical. And I think so many people fell for the crap with Gigi when she came out with her little channel. She was what, a little TikTok star with her, I'm going to make a video for YouTube and look what I found. And, that never substantiated. So what are they going to try to pretend now that it substantiates because he's pled guilty for this plea agreement? It doesn't substantiate. That was complete bogusness. And, when you talk about fake news, I'd say News Nation is one of the leading fake news channels, unfortunately. I did not know that pretty much until the crap with Gigi. Like, that was when I was like, oh my God, give me a freaking break. You can't do that and keep your credibility. You can't back things up without proof. Well, I have the proof. I'm just not going to show it to you. I can prove it, but I'm just not going to prove it. There we go. Anna Bees, it just proved that there are many shenanigans going on in Truckee. I want to see the proof. Yeah. I have never thought that News Nation was credible. Well, Anna Bees, it's because you're so much smarter than me. But yeah, Brian Hinton did great work in the Gabby Petito case. He really did. Okay, I think I missed a bunch. Let me, maybe little T had a stroke and one hand is flaccid. That's a really good point, Nurse Anna. You know these things so much better than I do. I have figured that that he's got some of that severe bruising on the back of his right hand, maybe from like an IV or something. Because I've seen some severe bruising on the back of his hand. If those photos are authentic, I don't know. But yeah, he also has a droopy eye. Is it which eye? I think it's his right eye. So yeah, would that make sense? Like his right side? I don't know. I think Moscow and Pullman are shady. So my point in talking about the departments is that they work closely together. And so that position that Koberger was one of the 4 finalists for at the Pullman PD was scheduled to start, I think it was like August 21st or August 22nd. But whichever day it was, he was pulled over in Moscow a day before or a day after it was scheduled to start. So the Moscow PD got eyes on him. They said they pulled him over for not wearing a seatbelt. This is weird. I want to say they pulled him over on August 21st and the position was supposed to start on August 22nd. But it's never been clarified who was offered the position or if he was offered the position. So I've always wondered if maybe he was offered the position and maybe he was working with the police on like a big rug bust, right? And then they told him that they'd keep him protected because he's doing police work. And then they threw him under the bus because, like, why would they wait until he was in Pennsylvania to arrest him? Why wouldn't they just arrest him when he was more conveniently located in their backyard, right? And then that whole thing with that house, 114 Lambsden Road, that was taken off the market on November 14th of 2022 and then put back on the market. So it sold to a small handful of people, one of them being named Susan Payne. And then they turned around and sold it a few months later at a loss, not like flipping a house to make money. Not that. It was a $400,000 house approximately. And they took like a $30,000 loss on it. I think I have it in my notes. Anyway. Yeah, Moscow and Pullman are shady. Speaking of schools, I'm embarrassed. Purdue is a big school. Oh, don't be embarrassed, Anna Bees. Yeah, I forgot to even look all that up. We were wondering, like, I think Purdue is like a top-notch school. And I think they have different campuses. I think they have like a couple of satellite campuses, maybe. Because I think they have a campus in Fort Wayne, but I don't think that that's their main campus. And I only know that because I drove through Fort Wayne. So, um, but what was I going to look at in my notes? I was looking at Pullman, Moscow, something, something, something. Um, okay. Ah. Oh, so in the Diddy trial, it was 8 male jurors and 4 female jurors. That could have something to do with the outcome, huh? Dang it. I forget what it was that I was picking up my book to look for. Can you help me out, Anna? Something about Pullman, Moscow, the when they filled the position, when Koberger was pulled over. And then we remember when he was pulled over in Pullman, when he was making that left turn. And I hadn't finished my thought, I don't think, about when Jenkins went over to manage to hold down the fort for Wazoo. And then when Matthew Kurt was terminated, when he was forced to resign on November 4th, which could coincide more with a rage attack. If they're trying to say that Koberger did a rage attack on these 4 people because of stuff going on at the university. If you're going to say that about Koberger, you need to say it about Matthew Kurt too. Let me also mention that I found out yesterday that Chief Smallfry is now a police chief at a really tiny department in Richland, Washington. So he quit his job last year because he was trying to become the sheriff. He was running for sheriff. He did not win that election. But it was weird, in my opinion, that he quit his job to run for that when he had 29 years in. Because when you're a police officer, you're in a certain retirement system that sheriffs are not in. So it would be really important to hit that 30-year mark before retiring. And he retired after 29 years. And he retired midstream in the middle of the case of the freaking century. And how many of those Moscow officers aren't there anymore? So we had Moscow officers, we had Wazoo officers, we probably had Pullman officers that were all part of the SWAT team when the Kopaka incident arose on December 15th, 2022, just shy of a month after the thing in Moscow. And then the one who had the kill shot, I want to say his name was Brett. Dan Hargraves was the name of the officer that assaulted and violated that 18-year-old with Matthew Kurt. Dan Hargraves was the one from Pullman. Matthew Kurt was the one from Wazoo. But then there was the officer that I don't know if it'll tell me. Let's see. Let's try it. Washington State University sergeant who fired the bullet that killed Brent Kopaka, SWAT incident. No SWAT incident. Let's see. Brett Boyd. It was a Brett. I didn't know if it would tell me. I thought it might have been like top secret. Okay. Brett Boyd. So the interesting thing about Sergeant Brett Boyd is that the Wazoo sergeants made six figures, except he only made like $30,000 the year that I was looking at, which was probably the year of 2021. This happened at the end of 2022. So I was like, why did he only make $30,000 that year when the other sergeants made six figures? I don't know. But man, what a cluster. Just trying to keep up with all this and then trying to keep up with the shenanigans in Idaho, which, I think that there's a lot of corruption in Idaho, even more than other cities and other law enforcement agencies across the country. It seems, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. And when I was like deep into this case 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, it was like spring of 2023, when I was like deeply seeped into this case, it seemed like every major player in this case had a position in Washington, D.C. It also seemed like a lot of the property in Moscow, Idaho was owned by Russians. Okay, I got to just stop right there. It's just too much. The springs are popping out of my brain. I'm like a cartoon character. Let's see. I am not smarter than you. Oh, Anna Bees, I disagree. I don't think I could be a nurse. I really don't think I have the type of brain for that. That's true. There could be a bruise on his hand. We bruise people frequently with IVs. Yes, Purdue is a top-notch school, and yes, they have satellite schools. Anna B says, I was thinking of Prager University, that is supposedly a Christian school. They are a brainwashing cult school. Ew, yikes. And see, I got Purdue University confused with like Purdue Drug Company, I think, that was largely responsible for the OxyContin epidemic. And I was attaching it to Purdue University, like, because I was ignorant. It had nothing to do with Purdue University. It was a totally different company. Because I was like, evil Purdue. Because other than that misinformation in my brain, I've only heard really good things about Purdue University. Oh, except that Barry Morphew went there. Gross. It's not just very sus that all these criminal connections in law enforcement, and yes, Brent Kopaka's red rum didn't make sense. It made zero sense. And then the whole thing with the profile picture and True Crime Time and Get a Clue. So I was talking about that other channel too, Subconscious Mouth, because now, Subconscious Mouth has erased everything. Like they're just like Get a Clue. You can't find them. But for some reason, I think the True Crime Time is still, you can still watch their videos. I was going to say that I could watch a Get a Clue video, but no, I think it was True Crime Time. I think that Get a Clue and Subconscious Mouth are both completely gone. I've wondered if Subconscious Mouth was not artificial intelligence. I've wondered. And then there was another channel like it. I'll have to remember what it was. The brain. The brain can only hold so much. It's funny because like sometimes I can't remember things. And then like, especially when I'm relaxed doing yoga or gardening or something like that, it'll just come to me. And then I'm like, oh, right. I always have to have my notebook nearby to write it down because I've done I'll remember that too many times and then I can't. So much information. And yeah, it's crazy trying to keep track of all this crap. And a lot of it I wouldn't be able to track if I hadn't actually lived in these places and gone to these places and known people from these places. So I've never been to Moscow, Idaho, but I have been to Pullman, Washington. a handful of times, but I know people who've lived in Moscow, Idaho. And yeah, the brainwashing cult school. It's very sus that all these criminal connections in law enforcement. And yes, Brent Kopaka's Red Room didn't make any sense. I probably spelled his name wrong too. I think it's close. I think that you just missed a C. Kopaka. I think it's Kopacka, but I could be wrong. I don't know. And then there was that whole like crime circus video where Brent said his name was Kopak, but who knows? Sometimes video things cut words off, cut sounds off. So it definitely sounded like he said Kopak, but everything I've seen is Kopaka. Wow, I didn't know that about Russians. Oh, I like that word. I was like, bruises? What? Russians. The Prussians in Moscow, Idaho is just weird, isn't it? So then you have that whole thing with that nationalist Christian church, Doug Wilson. So he started that church, the fundamentalist church there in Moscow. And then you have his sons and his grandsons and all that mayhem, other movie making videos and his burning things up. And then he also has a connection to Keg's Breath in Nashville, Tennessee, with his church branch there. So it's all connected. It really is. I'm not reaching. I'm really not. There's just so much information that my brain is just swimming, and I hate it. I hate these connections. I wish they didn't exist. Heg's Breath is a piece of crap. A drunk piece of crap at that. But that guy, Doug Wilson, is a piece of crap too. And I'm thinking about all the fires that he sets at the end of all of his videos. And then I'm thinking about all these fires that are set metaphorically and literally all over our country right now. There's a book and a television series called Little Fires Everywhere. And I read the book. I think I watched some of the television stuff. It starred Reese Witherspoon, and it was about Shaker Heights, Ohio, which is an interesting community up by Cleveland. And the thing about the Little Fires Everywhere is that that's one of the ways that firefighters know that it was arson, as opposed to, you know, like an electrical fire or something that happened that wasn't arson. So when there's little fires everywhere, I think that that's a dead giveaway that it's arson. But also, it just reminds me of like when you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off because you're metaphorically just putting out fires all day long. Like if you're a teacher or a parent, you know, you can't get anything done because the whole day you're just like putting out small metaphorical fires before they get large and blow things up. So it's like this freaking Trumpster fire administration, I feel like, is constantly setting small fires everywhere to distract. And then some of those fires are literal fires and others are metaphorical. And, you know, who knows about the MAGA dude in Coeur d'Alene who took the lives of the two first responders and injured the other one. You know, I don't think we know that much about him and his background yet, although we do know that he was in hellbent MAGA, just like so many of these folks, like the guy in Minnesota that had the list of 70 Democrats that he wanted to take out, and like the guy who burned Shapiro's governor's mansion, I believe was a MAGA. And too many others to mention. The guy, Matthew, in the Swastika, Matthew Livelsberger, the Swastika in front of Trump Tower in Vegas, another Trumpster supporter, allegedly. And then I don't know about the other guy, the one that was in New Orleans on New Year's, um, terrorizing people. But yeah, a lot of these are terrorist attacks, and they're not being labeled terrorist attacks, I don't think. But there's just so much crap to talk about. What else should I mention before we wrap up, Annabes? I wanted to mention the Suzanne Morphew case. I don't think we've really talked about that. So, Barry Morphew, I think, had a hearing yesterday. I think his daughter, one of his two daughters, was there. So disgusting. I think that daughter, I think both of them are still fully brainwashed that their daddy is innocent. Come on. Like, denial ain't just a river in Egypt, you know? It's so scary. But again, I can only hope that maybe they're just pretending to still be in his corner so that they can manipulate him, basically. Maybe elicit a confession out of him or something. I don't know. But oftentimes, family members can't see the forest through the trees and can't come to terms, especially when they've lost one parent, to know that they lost that parent at the hands of the other parent that pretends to love them, and that other parent basically costs them both of their parents. So now they're like orphans, essentially. It's insane. It's so crazy. So not Livelsberger, Jeff Liebler. Livelsberger is the guy in the Swastika. Jeff Liebler was Suzanne Morphew's boyfriend. They dated like back in high school. Sounded like they had a tryst. Barry wanted to kill him back then. And then Jeff Liebler, it's a funny name. I keep wanting to say Livelsberger now. Jeff Liebler had a 2-year affair with Suzanne at the end of her life, and he did not come forward. And finally, law enforcement was able to find him, and he said that he felt terrible not coming forward, but that he didn't want to risk, I think, losing his marriage and his profession. So him and his wife both work in the medical profession, and so it's understandable why he said that he would have lost his job because of the situation. And I don't want to say too much about them because, just for not doxing sake, he's a father of 6 kids. And I don't know if he's still married to his wife now or not, but what a freaking nightmare. Like, having an affair isn't bad enough. Then having the person that you're having the affair with get unalived, then having that come out, you haven't even confessed it to your spouse, and then they find out in the media, and then you've got your 6 kids. So now their lives are ruined because dad had an affair for a couple of years. And then, like, how much drama can one family take? My heart breaks for his wife and kids. I mean, I have compassion for him too, but come on. People are so stupid with their affairs. And just to think that had she gotten away from Barry and then gotten together with Jeff, if he got a divorce and then got together, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? It was just crazy. I had no idea what ages his kids were. Oh, I wanted to bring up that thing about when Barry kept asking the law enforcement who the person was that was having the affair with his wife. I just need to know. It's not like I'm going to go hunt him down or anything. And then when they said that they knew who his wife was, and his only question was, is she ugly? Oh my God. And he forgot to ask if she was fat, but I'm sure she was just as gorgeous as Susan, right? Suzanne Morphew. Just as gorgeous, no doubt. And I don't think Liebler and his wife knew each other since high school, but I think they knew each other since college. So, a long term marriage, had everything, and then threw it all into the garbage. And then you got to contend with the likes of Barry Morphew. Yuck. Um, and that's funny. We both were thinking bad things about Purdue. Sorry, Purdue University. Yeah, I've had relatives who've gone to school there who've, told me about what a great school it is, and they have great careers and such. So, yeah, like master's degree in computer science, probably something like that. Maybe computer engineering, but I think they do have like a whole medical school and stuff. Like they are hardcore. They're almost like Ivy League, I think, but they're not. I mean, Ivy League is like so freaking elite. A lot of places that we think are Ivy League are not. But it's kind of neither here nor there. And Anna B says, "Oh, I believe you, but now I don't know what that's for. There are so many MAGA patsies." Yeah, it's absolutely true, and so many more like them. Like the guy, and I can't remember his name, and I don't want to remember his name. The guy who shot the Democratic Minnesota um, representative and her husband, Hortman, Melissa and Mark Hortman, and the Senator Hoffman and his wife that um, that survived their injuries. That freak that killed them, the Hartmans. How many others are there like him? I would imagine that there's like a whole network of people like him. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. But again, it's like this whole brute force thing. Like it seems like he was trying to open up these seats in the government so that they could replace the Democrats with Republicans, doesn't it? It's gross. Like, not that he was just wanting to take the lives of Democrats because he hates Democrats, like that's not crazy enough, but because he wanted to replace those Democratic politicians with Republican politicians. Like, what the F, man? It's just never been this bad. Then we have Elon threatening to create a whole third party. And as much as I don't like Elon, I'm like, go Elon, keep it up. OMG. I wish that he would just come out with his the rest of the story of what he knows about Epstein, because he knew Epstein personally too. And he I think was hooked up through Epstein. I think his brother was hooked up with one of his fiancées or partners through Epstein. We know that allegedly Elon and Amber Heard were kind of like maybe a little E in Ghislaine Maxwell, maybe. Elon would have these big house parties where he would charge people at the door, and then they would be supplied with everything they needed when they got in the door. Like, I think he started doing that in college. Man, how do I even keep up with any of this crap? And I'm constantly like thinking of things that I want to say, but I'm trying to finish the thought that I'm having, and then the other one escapes me, which is why I so often am looking out into space trying to remember what this was and what that was. There was something I really wanted to mention before I wrapped up, and what was it? the election shenanigans, the election manipulation. That's huge. If we can prove that the election was hijacked, wouldn't that stop all this other crap? And wouldn't that get a lot of these mofos in jail that belong in jail? And maybe they could go to that alligator Alcatraz that they think is so cute and funny. Maybe that could be where they're housed. I don't know. It's just a thought. Who am I? Just a little content creator. Yeah, that's what it was that I keep wanting to say. I keep wanting to get back to that election stuff because I'm going to put some links in the description to some of the most current videos about it. That Nathan from the Election Truth Alliance, I am a big supporter of his. I like the way he presents his material. Very unbiased and very matter of fact. He's just showing you what he's found. He's not really jumping to any conclusions. My heart breaks for his wife and kids too. And Barry makes me sick. And yeah, I mean, Barry is like Puffy. Is like, oh, well, is he being treated unfairly too? Should he get a pardon also? I mean, Puffy's committed so many crimes. He's hurt so many people. He's ruined so many lives, so many careers. I mean, he's right up there with R. Kelly. And the more these people are protected, the more it's going to keep happening. It's gross. It's absolutely gross. Affairs are terrible. Just get a divorce. Exactly. Exactly. People don't realize, like, they're not only hurting their spouses and their families, they're hurting themselves. It's just tragic. It's so stupid. There are sleeper cells everywhere. Yeah, and there's terrorists everywhere. Like when that Timothy McVeigh, when that happened, the Oklahoma City bombing, that was so sad. Oh my gosh, Ron DeSantis stopping voting in special election this November. I know, I can't even go there, Anna Bees. It's just too much. It's too much. I believe this last presidential election was stolen. It's being proven that this last presidential election was stolen, but proving it in a court of law and then having the implications from that be put into action is unprecedented. It's unprecedented. Although there have been situations like in South Korea recently, there was, I think, I'm not sure how similar of a situation, but they did have somebody elected president who then was found guilty of, I don't know if it was election fraud or something else, but they were taken out of office. I think they were put in prison too. I think that's just been in the last couple of months. So I am going to wrap up since I'm getting close to 2 hours and I'm just been like all over the map. And I just want to say, I love you, darling. And thanks for being here. And have a great rest of your day. It's Wednesday. The day after tomorrow is the 4th of July. You better have that big blasphemous bill on my desk ready to sign, or I'm going to come after all you guys with some alligators and some fat sausage fingers. Gross. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and sign off, my dear. Thanks a million for being here. I'm always so appreciative. And I'm also super appreciative of everyone on the replay crew. So love and light. Drink your water, your tea, your juice. Keep your sugars down to a minimum. Eat your veggies. So when I say juice, I'll show you my giant bottle of veggie juice. This stuff is good, especially because it does have apple in it, so it's not as nasty as the one that has all veggies. It's like celery, cucumber, kale, collards, and lemon. And I usually get the one without the apple, but then I always end up having to mix something in it because it just tastes so much like lawn clippings. I can't deal with it. The apple helps a great deal. So eat your protein too, right? Thank you for coming on. Bye, everyone. I hope they don't pass the bill. I hope you have a great day. I hope they don't too, Annabes. But I don't know. I sure hope it doesn't go through, but got to brace ourselves, huh? And I just gotta say, I missed you for a couple of days here. I know you were busy with other stuff, and I was like, "Where's my Anna Bees?" So nice to see you, honey. Have a great afternoon, and hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow. And I just remembered that my arrow is not working, so I have to like lean all the way up to touch the end session, and then it's not gonna work. Let's see, end session. There we go. All right, love and light.